What's up everyone, Colt Capperrune here. Thank you for stopping by for yet another video. Today, I want to go over all the technical aspects of how I actually make my YouTube videos. Now, I just released a video, my last video, which you can check out right here, somewhere, I think it's this side, where I go over exactly how I built my YouTube channel and how I got to 10,000 subscribers in 4 months flat, which is still just completely crazy to me. But I broke it down and I broke down all the things that I did in that last video, so that way, step by step, this is the things that I think were the most important to growing my YouTube channel. And I had a lot of comments in that video asking about the technical specs, the cameras, the lenses, the lighting, the editing, color grading, all of that stuff. And I've been getting a lot of questions on how to build a channel and this technical stuff for a while, but like everything else on this channel, I really always want to make sure that I have gained some level of success, and so that way I have some authority from which to speak from. Is that how you would say that? I think, whatever. You know what I'm saying. So we're gonna go over all the extra stuff that I use, and then we'll get to the camera and exactly what lights that I'm using. So, first thing, every YouTuber on YouTube has one of these Gorilla Pods. This seems to be like the standard, the gold standard for vlogging and for creating YouTube videos. So I used this for a long time and it was okay. You know, these are real flexible, and so it's very wonderful to like grip around something if you have a real odd surface, an uneven surface, or a handrail that you need to wrap this around and set your camera on. Pretty cool. One of the things that I hated about it was the quick release only fits this exact Gorilla Pod. And so there was no real way without mounting an additional plate on this to have a quick release that I could go from this to my actual tripod to the gimbal, etc., etc. And then also, it's just kind of flimsy, like you have it set up, and so then you kind of have to like mash it into a thing, and then hopefully it works, and then it's kind of wobbly, it's kind of jiggly. So I got a new thing. So this is the Oben CTT-1000, and it's a little mini travel tripod. The legs extend like 3 levels, and then there's another extension that goes on top. The swivel mount is very good. It's very wonderful. It's an Arca Swiss plate, and so then this did a couple things for me. One, when I lock all this in and I hold the camera like this, it's very sturdy and very stable, and I love it. It feels good in my hand. It allows me a lot of control over it, and then I can just flip it open, set it on a table. If I'm out, this is what I take out when I'm vlogging most of the time. And then also this Arca Swiss mount, then there's a plate, an Arca Swiss plate on the bottom of this camera. This just tightens up. And then there's another one of these quick release plates on this tripod and on my gimbal. And so that way the camera can just very quickly jump from one platform to the next. And so that has been a wonderful help. Can't recommend this enough. For the cell phone, I just use a cheap little cell phone tripod, and so then a little tabletop tripod, and so then that is how I hold my cell phone when I'm using my cell phone. Now, some of you guys probably don't realize it, but you have seen my cell phone footage in more of these videos than you would probably think, because I don't always take the camera out and around. So I just have an iPhone 10. I use a different app. I don't use the stock camera app. I use an app called ProCam. Now, the reason why I use this app ProCam is because then I can film in 4K 24p, 24 frames per second, because all the footage that I film on this camera is all 24 frames per second, unless I'm doing slow-mo, and then I'm usually 120 frames per second. For a long time, I was filming in 1080p, but I've just recently switched over to 4K because I want people to be able to watch it on their TV, and I want it to look good on a TV, and 1080 on YouTube just doesn't really look good if you're watching it on anything other than your cell phone. So I'm on the fence about this 1080 versus 4K thing, but anyway, so this app allows me to film in 24 frames per second in 4K or in 1080 right from my cell phone, and so that way I can mix and match footage, which you're gonna see in this video quite a bit actually, because I only have one real camera and the rest is all gonna be from this cell phone. So that's how I mix and match footage if I'm using 2 angles, if I'm out somewhere I just didn't feel like taking the camera. All right, now I have 2 microphones that I attach to the camera that I use. One of which is this Saramonic can we focus, is this Saramonic Vmic Mini. This is like a $50 microphone. It's very small, it's very compact, you know, smaller than my hand. It's very lightweight. So this works out really good if you want a really compact system. It's great, and this also balances on the gimbal really easy. I'm an amateur at this kind of stuff in the grand scheme of things, so it's much easier to balance the gimbal with this than it is the other mic, which is a Deity D3 Pro. And I really like this Deity. It sounds fantastic. It's nice and thick sounding. Comes with a great shock mount. Comes with some high passes there. It's got an internal battery and it lasts like 40 or 50 hours. It automatically goes on standby, and so this is a really great tool if you're not so concerned about size, because you can see it is quite large. So while we're on this, we might as well talk about the camera. This is a Sony a6400. I'm using a Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens, and this is a really great vlogging style setup. The footage is very crisp and very clear. The autofocus is absolutely fantastic. I mean, come on, that's crazy good. So I really like this setup. It's very versatile, and it's still pretty compact for the quality of footage, and most importantly, if I'm being honest, it's a pretty affordable package. The bang for the buck with this Sony camera and this Sigma lens is very, very high. So I should mention that I have this small rig bracket right here, and that gives me a relocation for a cold shoe and for another cold shoe. And that helps because, one, I want to be able to have a microphone and a light, which I'll talk about the light here in 1 second. But the cold shoe or the hot shoe on this camera is right in front of the screen, and since this is one of the few Sony cameras that actually has the flip-up screen, this bracket relocates it. It was like 20 bucks and makes everything so much more wonderful. So I found myself in a few situations where the lighting wasn't very good at all. Dark studios, a lot of recording studios are very dimly lit, and so I was finding myself in a bunch of dark places, but it's just not realistic to take legitimate like film, studio, any sort of actual lighting. It's just not realistic to take it very many places for this vlog style, real life kind of thing that I'm often doing. And so I wanted to find an on-camera light. Now there's a whole bunch of options for on-camera lights, but I landed on this one. This is the Aputure Amaran AL-MX LED light, and what is wonderful about it is it has all these controls for temperature and brightness, shows your battery life, recharges with a USB port right there, and it's very bright. If we let's see, if we go to dim and let's go, how bright can we go? I mean, I have a pretty bright light right in front of me, but I mean, that's pretty crazy. So it's enough to like really supplement some stuff and really make sure that your footage looks halfway decent. So I really love this. I can't recommend this enough. So I tried a handful of ways to create smooth B-roll because I'm interested in this film thing. I'm interested in making legitimately high quality videos. And so I wanted to get a way to film smoother B-roll and smoother shots. So I even went and I got this handle here from Small Rig, and it was even featured in one of my videos that this is a way for me to create smoother B-roll. But honestly, this turned out worse than just holding with this mini tripod. This ended up being smoother than holding with this, and so I ditched this, and I still just couldn't get the smooth shots that I wanted. So I ended up going with a DJI Ronin SC. Now this is a gimbal, this is a stabilizer, and basically what happens is you level the camera on this, and then once you turn it on, the camera stays smooth no matter what you do with it. And I'll show an example for those of you that aren't familiar here in a second. It's a little heavy to vlog with, if I'm being honest, because it's a little bulky. So by the time the camera's on here, it's a little bulky to vlog with, but the footage is super, super smooth. Okay, so on to lighting. The one thing that I always try to do when I'm out and vlogging or whatever, because I do try to use this as little as possible. This is a backup. This is just in case I find myself in a legitimately dark room with no light, and this lets me get by. I always try to face the brightest light. Sometimes that's a window. Sometimes if I just walk right up to a lamp or right up to a light fixture, I can get away with that. But in this controlled environment in here, the way that I set my lighting up, and I'll show it here in 1 second, I have a key key light, which I'm touching it right now, a big soft box, so it's an arm's length away from me. And so there's a key light here, and then there's a rim light back over here. And so this is a big soft box, and that's a little LED panel, and they just stay right here set up all the time. So I literally just turn it on and hit record, and we're off to the races. There's zero setup time. My room looks like this all the time without putting any work into it. So let's actually show the lights that I'm using here. I'm gonna put this back on because I'm actually gonna be showing the lights, which means I'm gonna be behind the lights. So here is my key light right here. Now something that I should mention real quick is when I turn this camera around and I'm filming other stuff, I always flip this microphone around so it's still facing me. And so that was something that I had to learn pretty quick to get better audio, is always have the mic turned in whatever direction that I'm standing, so that way even when I'm filming like this, the audio still sounds good. But so this is an Aputure 120D Mark II. And then this is the Aputure Light Dome 2. Comes with a controller here, comes with a remote control. This is an absolutely wonderful, wonderful light. I could very easily do with just this light, and many of my first videos were just this light. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a little on the pricey side, but if you're ready to step up, this is really a great option. There is my rim light, and so this is just an LED panel, and it is a, however you would say that, Dracast, I guess. And so this is all it is. It's just a little LED panel. I got this on sale from B&H. They were blowing them out for like next to no money. So those are the lights that I'm using. Now, before I got these lights, I just used these 4-foot shop tube fluorescent lights from Lowe's or Home Depot. I'm very particular on the color temperature because at the time I was not color grading, and so these are 4100K color temperature bulbs. But this fluorescent light hung on the wall just right there in place of this softbox is fantastic, and these are about 15 bucks. So if you're not ready to do this, this is a really great option for really just no money, and I had really great luck. All my earlier videos were done with these. Okay, so I've had a bunch of people asking me what color profiles and settings. So I am on the Sony a6400, like I said, and I'm using the Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens. Oh, for B-roll. For most of my B-roll, I am using this other Sigma lens. This is the 30mm f1.4. So these lenses go together. They make a trio of these. I think there's like a 56mm f1.4 Sigma as well for these Sony cameras. The autofocus on this is not nearly as good, but the image is still pretty great. And so for a lot of my B-roll, especially on the gimbal, if I'm doing shots where there's no talking head stuff, or it's just like close-up product shots or whatever, this is the lens that I'm using for that. So for color profiles, and I'll throw a picture up here of exactly what I'm using. I'm filming in Cine 2, and I've got my black level at +6, and I'm using the color mode, the ITU 709 matrix, and that's the only things that I've changed. And what that does for me is that gives me a pretty flat image, but is also super easy to color grade in post because I don't want to spend a lot of time color grading. So basically I'm just after more dynamic range, and all dynamic range really is how well you can see into the darkest parts of the shot when it's properly exposed for whatever it is that you're actually shooting. And it gives it a little bit more cinematic, a little bit more filmic look, and so without going too crazy on the color profiles and shooting in a completely flat profile, this is what I'm using. So this is what the footage looks like right out of the camera. This is what all the footage looks like, not color graded, not anything, and then that's what it looks like color graded. So I edit and color grade in Final Cut Pro 10, and so let's go take a look at that and exactly what I do to this footage. Okay, so here's a sample from my last video that I posted, and you can see there is with it color graded, and there is the flat profile. And so basically all I do is I use the scope here, and so then I can really see like where the shadows are and where the highlights are. Now these sections right here are where the actual window is, and so I don't really pay attention to those because I'm totally fine with that window being completely blown out. But basically what I do, it's very simple. I just go to my color board, And I take my exposure and I pull the exposure down until I'm somewhere around, until most of the blacks are somewhere around 10 over here on the analyzer. And then I push my highlights up. You can see all this kind of orange stuff right here. That's my face and those are my hands. And so I push that up till the highest points of them are nearing 100. And that's how I color grade that. And then I will also go to saturation here, and I usually push the saturation up to somewhere between 25 and 30, and then I will also go to my color curves, and just to give it a little bit more filmic look and pull the shadows up a little bit more, and my color curve usually ends up looking something like this, and that is pretty much it. Okay, so sorry the audio and the video is changing now because now I'm using my cell phone, so you probably notice a slight drop in quality. But, so here's what the rig looks like on the tripod, and then whenever I'm gonna switch to the gimbal, this is kind of what happens. So then that's the gimbal rig, and then as soon as we unlock everything here, this is what it looks like. So basically, if I want to vlog this way, I can just hit that 3 times and it turns around to vlog, and so I can vlog just like this. It just keeps things real stable, and then I can actually get real steady shots. And that is how I make my videos. If you're new to the channel, I'd love it if you would subscribe and hit the bell icon next to the subscribe tab. Give me a thumbs up and drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about this. If you have any more questions about any of this technical stuff, I would love to do my best to help you. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Make sure you hit me up on Instagram at Colt Capperrune, and hit me up on Facebook if you prefer Facebook. And don't forget to hit up my website, coltcapperrune.com. There will be links in the description for all of this stuff. I guess that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you. I really do. See ya.